Today we will find real roots of a quadratic equation by factoring using the zero product property. The zero product property basically says that if you're multiplying two numbers together and you get an answer of 0, that one of those two numbers, or both of them, would have to be 0. Now remember, when we're factoring a quadratic expression, we're looking for two sets of parentheses. And we're going to set this equal to 0. So we're looking for x plus or minus a number times x plus or minus a number. So we need to find two numbers that add together to get -7 and multiply together to get a +6. So we need to get a +6 when we multiply two numbers together. So let's see what some of our options are. +1 and +6, +2, +3, and those are my factors of 6. And if I add these together, I get a +7. If I add these together, I get a +5. So it can't be either of these. So we're looking, we need something to add together to get a -7. So I'm thinking that my numbers actually need to be negative. A negative times a negative equals a positive number. So what about -1 and -6? If I add -1 and -6 together, I do get -7. So I have x minus 1 and x minus 6. So now with the zero product property, I know that either x minus 1 or x minus 6 needs to equal 0. And then I just solve each equation separately. I get x equals 1 and x equals 6. These are my roots. If I graphed this, they would also be my zeros. If I plugged this in a graphing calculator, it would cross the x-axis at x equals 1 and x equals 6. Let's look at another example here. So I need to factor this, so I'm going to look at this. This is a different way of factoring. I see that I have an x in the x squared and an x in the 5x. So I'm going to pull one x out. And by pulling it out of the expression here, I'm left with x plus 5. So either x or x plus 5 has to be 0. So there's nothing to do to solve this. X can equal 0 or x will equal -5. So those are my solutions, my roots, my zeros. All right, so in order to apply the zero product property, I have to have 0 on one side of the equation. So I need to move this over so that this will be 0. So now I'm going to have 5x squared minus 20x plus 20 equals 0. I'm going to factor out my 5 here to make it smaller numbers since all of these are divisible by 5. And then I'm going to factor my trinomial into two binomials here. So I need two numbers that multiply together to get a positive 4, but add together to get a negative 4. So I'm thinking, what about negative 2 and negative 2? If I add them, they'll be negative 4. If I multiply them, they'll be positive 4. So that is what it is. So 5 doesn't equal 0, so we don't even need to worry about the 5. But x minus 2 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. They're the same thing. So x is going to equal 2. And if you graph it, you'll see an equation that looks like a smiley face where the vertex or the bottom touches x equals 2. Let's look at one more example here. So this is kind of like what you guys were doing on the worksheet, the solving by square roots. So that's one way you can do this. You can take the square root here, the square root here, and get x equals positive or negative 5. But also, if we subtract the 25 and try to solve it by the zero product property, you might see that this is a special product. This is the same as x minus 5 times x plus 5. And you're also, when you solve both of these separately, you're going to get x equals 5 or x equals negative 5. So those are two different ways to solve the same equation. And I'm going to keep giving you more and more tools to use when you're trying to solve quadratic equations, but this is one of them. Or these are two of them. Take the square root here, or solve it using the zero products property. If you want more practice, you can go to IXL Algebra 2. If you just need practice factoring because it's been a while and you need to remind yourself exactly how to factor, see if you still understand it, that's section J, and you can go to 1, 3, and 4 for that. But if you think you have factoring down and you just want to practice solving quadratic equations by factoring, you can go to section K8. See you in Zoom.